Mute.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
Hey, Bob.
Thank you. Hi.
Picture. Click more, see what it says. Go to mute and see what happens. Hello?
Hi, Shriers. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom, Bob.
Okay. Nice to see everybody.
Sure is. We
Huh?
just, like we were talking about yesterday, we missed everyone a lot.
I don't understand this at all.
Here we go. Start video. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Happy birthday, Rabbi.
Oh. Rabbi Saffron. It's a few days ago.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
happy
happy birthday,
birthday.
Rabbi.
I didn't have the sound on. I wonder, I was talking to myself. Everybody okay?
We are
How are
good.
you?
Yeah, getting to be an old man.
Oh,
It gets hotter and hotter, kid. But we got good weather, and I'm blessed. I had hey, oh, the Greenbergs there. New.
Hi, Richard.
Hey guys, everything okay?
Good.
Yes, good.
You're making the adjustment back to Indiana?
Well, it was nice of the state to have a beautiful week, our first week. Hope it's been in the middle 70s all week. It's gorgeous.
Great,
It's going to
great.
get cold next week. So I guess our pampering is over.
that's spring for you in Indiana.
When it gets to
Exactly.
be 125 here, you won't be complaining.
You're right. And I won't be there either.
You're right, kid. You're right. We'll be locked up here. Nice day today. Probably in the high 80s.
Oh, that's nice. Good weather.
Yeah.
Too hot for me.
Well, yeah, you get used to it, like everything else.
I suppose.
But it was dry, right?
Dry it is. Dry it is,
Yes.
yeah. Well, now your service is at 3 o'clock.
I know.
Next week it'll be what? Lunchtime or breakfast time?
5-minute intermission between Friday night and the Saturday morning service.
Right.
It'll be Shachrit Shabbat.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Friday morning breakfast minion.
your rabbi called and wished me a happy birthday, which was lovely. I was touched.
How nice.
He's a very special guy.
Yes, he is.
So.
Did
What else
anybody
is
else?
new in-
I said, did anybody else catch Rabbi on WBOI the other day?
No.
Was interviewed. I just by chance happened to catch it when I was going out through something. I wish I'd have known about it in advance. He represented us very well.
It's on YouTube also, Norm. There's a link in the weekly email.
Ah,
What was it on?
Probably Yom HaShoah.
Thank you guys.
On YouTube. The recording's on YouTube, but it was on WBOI and also on Access Fort Wayne, I think it's called.
How long ago was that taped, Beth?
I think in the last couple of weeks, but it just,
Okay. Yeah, it
this was the
sounded
first-
recent.
you can catch the recording of it,
Yeah,
anyone who missed
good.
it.
Thank you
Beth,
for
thank you for
reminding
your-
us.
Yeah, the same email that got you here, look further down and you'll find the link.
In 2 minutes. So we
I
can let
missed
folks
that,
online
but
know so they can
I
get
saw
comfy
the
and
article that
muted and all
Amy
that.
wrote.
What do you see, Jonathan, this weekend?
Yes, we're going tomorrow,
Okay.
and so we'll stay overnight.
Bring your umbrella.
yeah,
It's supposed to rain there
of
too.
course.
Yeah.
All day. Has been for the last 2 days.
What is rain? You got to tell them, what is rain?
What is right? Yeah, exactly.
It's that Virgo stuff, Virga stuff that actually hits the ground as water.
What's water?
What's water, right?
How's Cindy, how's your family?
Good, very good.
Good. Yeah, you look great, yeah. Hope everybody's well. Yeah.
Great.
Where are they living?
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 ya dai 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 yai dai 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 dai yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is so good to see all of these faces here in the sanctuary and all of the faces. I took a peek before we started. All of the faces that are joining us on Zoom. It is wonderful to be together for Shabbat, and we are one Congregation Afifa Shalom community wherever we are located, whether we're at home or whether we're here in the sanctuary. And because we're still in this strange pandemic time, no doubt things are getting better. Better enough that we're able to be here in this building together tonight. But there's some things that we need to keep in mind, and they're so important that I'm going to remind us about them every time we start services, because they're that important. So the first thing here in the sanctuary, here in the building, is that we'll be maintaining social distance, and I will report to everyone at home we are doing that with abundant skill here in the sanctuary and in the building. We'll be wearing masks in the building for the entire time we're here. I'm not wearing a mask because you wouldn't understand me, and I am rather far from you if you haven't noticed. So, but that's how masks will be working. The building, the parts of the building that are open are the sanctuary and the front half of the social hall, the space that we're in right now, the lobby and the restrooms to on the other side of the lobby to the left as you come into the building. Those are open. The rest of the building, we ask that you not enter at this time. And the other thing that we mentioned, and it's the weirdest thing on the whole list, and that is congregational singing. So right now, the state of the science is that we don't know exactly where the threshold is for safe social distance when someone is singing, because that means someone is putting out more sound, more air, and more all the things that go in the air, which is why we wear masks in the first place. So for that reason, that's part of why I'm so far from you. And also, we ask that during the service that we not engage in congregational singing. So what is that? Okay. We can say amen. We can say amen. And that's kind of where we're at. It's going to feel unnatural, and I appreciate you doing that to help keep us safe. And when we can change that, when we know more, we will joyously change that. But for now, that's the way we're going to do it. So it is so beautiful to see all of you. We will continue the service on page 142. 142. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Etchem shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue on page 128 with our gathering prayer used to start off our time together. Hine matzov u'manayim, shevet achim kam yachad. Hine matzov u'manayim, shevet achyot kam yachad. Hine matzov, shevet achim kam yachad. Hine matzov, שבת אחיות גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחיות גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחיות גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה 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 יאללה, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה יאללה יאללה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחיות גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים ואחיות גם יחד. How good and pleasant it is for all of us, brothers and sisters, to dwell together in this holy space on Shabbat. Let us continue on page 124. I invite you to read with me at the bottom of the page. We'll read responsibly. So I'll start with the first paragraph and then you can fill in the next paragraph and so on. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to love or strain peace. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. And now we will continue on page 120 to come to the moment when we kindle the lights of Shabbat to light us, to light and guide us on the way into these holy and sacred 25 hours. And to light the Shabbat candles, I invite Maureen Grinsfelder and Al Grinsfelder to the bima to light the candles. You'll find the blessing on page 120. All right, it worked. It works every time. Thank you. I will keep that from you. But before you go back to your seat, I want to mention again, we are now having week 2 in the sanctuary with this beautifully restored art curtain. And both of you played a role in the committee that helped make this possible. So I want to thank you for the part you played in making this happen. I hope you're enjoying seeing it up. Thank you so much. We will continue on page 138 with the words of Lachado D, the beautiful Shabbat song, poem, piyut, the word in Hebrew for a liturgical poem. And this is the image that we hold in our hearts as we say this prayer is our reunion with our beloved. No matter how far we have come to be back together or how long it has been since we've seen one another, we are always so happy to see those beloved people. And Shabbat is our beloved in this prayer. We will do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shemu tiferet velitila. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem en sucha sof maaseh b'machach v'tila. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoreri hitoreri ki va'orek u'miori. Uri, Uri, shir daberim, kevod Adonai alayik nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Please rise and face the door, or at home face a window, so that our prayers for Shabbat peace and blessings can go wherever they're needed most. Boi v'shalom materet bala gam besimcha u'v'sola toch emunei am segula. Boi hala, boi hala. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalala 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 b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Don't sit down yet. If you can go ahead and face the camera, and if you are at home now, put your screen onto gallery view. Let's all see one another. Well, on Zoom, you're going to see all of us. We're not going to see you, but we know we're there, and we are all together as one community. So let's greet each other with Shabbat joy. Shabbat shalom, everyone. We'd be shaking hands and hugging someday when we can. But for now, we are all together and joyously so. You may be seated. No, don't sit down. We're going to continue with Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Please rise. Sorry about that. Please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba. El madi brachel te v'emlik malchute. בחייכון וביומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בדלה בדלה ובזמן קריב בימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך כאיש שבת ויתאהב ויתמרם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי לקודשם בריחו לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה ושכתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה וימרו amen. Please turn the page for Baruch Hu. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach. Hamevorach leolam vaed. Hamevorach. Hamevorach leolam vaed. Please be seated. We will continue on page 148. Let us read together the English at the bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Arevim. We will continue on page 150. Please read along with me in the English at the bottom. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Israel. Please rise as you are able for Shema on page 152. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shem kavod malchuto leolam va'ed. You may be seated. We continue on the next page. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצטווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם. אמן. We continue on page 157 on the bottom of the page. Let us read this prayer responsively. I'll begin with the first and you will read the indented sections. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. We continue now with Micha Mocha on page 158. I'll begin with the Hebrew prayer at the top of the page, and we will continue together in English in the middle of the page. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. We'll read responsively. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Your children witnessed your sovereignty, the sea splitting before Moses and Miriam. This is our God, they cried. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Israel. We will continue on page 165. I was drawn today as I was thinking about our time together tonight to the first two lines on page 47 on the top of the page. And they say, pray as if everything depended on God and act as if everything depended on you. That's a very, very powerful kavanah, very powerful purpose that we can bring to the Amidah, the central prayer of our worship. In a moment, we'll begin the prayer on page 164, and we'll continue on the even pages till page 170. But before we begin, I'd like you to take a moment and consider the blessings that you have found in your life this week, today, this very moment. Find those blessings and let them carry you through. Please rise as you are able. Adonai tefatai tisaku fiyadi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Kol Mel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומזה גאולה לבני ובניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכוח הרב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מחלחל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, תומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לה, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ולמען אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדושים בכל יום יחלו הסלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Please continue praying silently. When you finish your prayer, you may be seated.
Sniff my hair.
Oof.
We continue on the bottom of page 180. Ose shalom, Israel, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Israel, ve'iveru, amen. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imeru amen. We've now come to the time when we pray for those who are in need of healing, healing of body, healing of mind, healing of spirit. We're going to continue on page 371. We'll pray together. We should bear off the prayer for healing. Before I do that, I will read our communal list of those for whom we are praying together as a community for healing. When I come to the end of that list, I'll pause, and then I invite you to say to yourself, in your mouth or in your heart, the names of those people you are praying for. You can do that here, you can do that at home, wherever you are. Our prayers will all be bound together. We will support one another in our prayers. Tonight, we pray for all those who are ill with COVID-19 and for those in quarantine who are experiencing the stress and the worry of uncertainty. And we pray for Barry Alberts, Brent Beatty, Judy Bloch, Louis Bloom, Ruth Bloom, Don Bobay, Andrew Bosell, Hope Piled Boyce, Pircha Matbracha, Adolf Breitman, Adrienne Breitman, Roberta Butts, Richard Coker, Todd Prego, Kenna Davis, Dan Dregmeyer, Tobias Enright, Nancy Ferguson, Isidore Frankel, Marietta Fry, Keegan Gallagher, Joe Gold, Ken Gottlieb, Susan Hine, Corrine Heller, Lucienne Heller, Terry Hochstetler, Tim Johnston, Doris Kingbury, Thea Levine, Renee Marver, Kaylin Nagel, Nancy Novak, Tom O'Neill, Paul Richmond, Janet Rosenberg, Pat Brewer, Esther Campbell Russ, Debbie Charay, Linda Smith, Gary Smythe, Larry Steinbacher, Kathy Stoller, Moshe Chaim Ben Ruben, Lucienne Batnatan Rachel, Bobby Williams, and Manasher Jovi. And to those names. We will continue with the words of Misha Barak, which you'll find in the middle of page 370. Misha Barak avoteinu, Mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe berach imotenu, Mekor habracha Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, renewal of body, renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. It's so nice to hear that. With joy and a little sadness, we put Passover 5781 behind us last week. We put away our Pesach dishes and reacquainted our palates with chametz. There's nothing quite like that first crusty sandwich or a slice of pizza or a glass of cold beer after Passover, is there? However, if you still find yourself with a hankering for matzah cuisine, matzah brai, anyone? I can hook you up with a supply, and I am absolutely serious about that. Let me know if we can get you some. Now, the Jewish calendar turns its focus from the liberation of the Israelites and the establishment of the Jewish people in ancient times to modern history and the struggle to establish the Jewish state. Next week are the twin holidays of Yom HaZikaron, Remembrance Day, and Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day. Having lived in Israel for a year, I can report that this season is unlike anything I have experienced anywhere else. Yom HaZikaron begins with a siren at 8 o'clock in the evening. And as soon as the siren is heard, Israelis stop whatever they're doing, wherever they are, and stand firm to honor those they've lost. People driving on highways stop their cars in the middle of the road to get out and stand in remembrance. A whole office will stop working at 8 o'clock, and the family having dinner will stop eating in order to spend a minute in respectful silence. After the first siren, the state memorial ceremony begins at the Western Wall in the Old City of Jerusalem. The Prime Minister, the Minister of Defense, the Chief of the General Staff of the IDF, and the President take part in this ceremony. The next day, there's another 2-minute siren at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the same stopping wherever you are happens. This siren marks the beginning of private memorial ceremonies that take place in cemeteries or schools. And at night, the final ceremony is held at Mount Herzl National Cemetery. This ceremony ends Yom HaZikaron, and the country moves immediately into the joyous celebration of Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day, which is quite a party. The logic of pairing these two holidays, which in the US are separated by several weeks, makes sense in Israel. The armed struggle for Israeli independence in 1948 happened in the days before and after the day in which David Ben-Gurion declared the sovereignty of the Jewish state. The state of Israel wouldn't be able to celebrate its existence if it weren't for those who gave their lives for it. Israelis would not be able to have one of those days without the other. As Jews in diaspora, we honor their memory and everything they fought for, so that today we can all rejoice in the creation of an independent Jewish state. However, before we come to either of these Jewish holidays, we commemorate, as we did yesterday, Yom HaShoah. We remember the Holocaust. Yesterday, we weren't able to come together as an entire community. as is our custom. But in an example of Jewish perseverance combined with pandemic ingenuity and a little chutzpah, the Jewish Federation of Fort Wayne, in cooperation with the Temple and Heartland Sings, presented the annual Yom HaShoah commemoration in a beautifully produced video that was broadcast to the community last evening and remains available on YouTube. Our human experience, and our Jewish experience too, revolves around a cycle that begins with life, experiences death, and continues with life again. This is our lived experience, and it is also the basis of this week's Torah portion, Shini, from Leviticus. The Parashah begins with Aaron and his sons following Moses' instructions for offering sacrifices to God. From the Parashah, Moses and Aaron then went inside the tent of meeting. When they came out, they blessed the people, and the presence of the Eternal appeared to all the people. Fire came forth from before the Eternal and consumed the burnt offering and the fat parts on the altar. And all the people saw and shouted and fell on their faces. And after this intense exercise of life, of the Brit, in relationship with God, this. Now Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu each took his fire pan, put fire in it, and laid incense on it. And they offered before the Eternal alien fire, which God had not enjoined. And fire came forth from the Eternal and consumed them. Thus they died at the instance of the Eternal. And Aaron was silent. In the midst of beautifully joyous, God-filled living, the people and Aaron witnessed the death of Aaron's sons in their service to the Eternal One. Deaths that have vexed sages and all readers of Torah for ages, for they were without a clear, definitive meaning. At least not one that can be agreed upon. Vatetse esh milfnei Adonai v'tochal otam, and fire came forth from the Eternal and consumed them. This text is particularly troubling for us this week because the literal meaning for the word Holocaust is consumption by fire. As we have just yesterday engaged in deep reflection of the memory of the Holocaust, I will leave that there because I am also drawn to the poignant moment that follows. Vayidom Aharon, and Aaron was. Aaron not only lost his two beloved sons to premature deaths, he not only witnessed their horrific demise, but he saw the divine origin of the fire that consumed them. Aaron was experiencing bereavement and trauma, of that there is no question. But he also witnessed the actions of an all-powerful God. Was he feeling betrayed? Angry? Afraid? Torah is silent on those questions because all that is recorded is Aaron's silence. What a profoundly human reaction. The silence of Holocaust survivors is a well understood phenomenon. And I'd like to share the story of one of them. A young Italian Jewish girl named Liliana Segre was just 13 years old when she was taken from her home and transported to Auschwitz. On arrival, she was immediately separated from her father and she never saw him again. Segre spent almost 2 years in the Nazi death camp between 1943 and 1945, during which time she survived 3 selections when guards decided who would live and who would die. As Soviet troops approached, Segre was forced to walk to a second camp at Ravensbrück on a death march during which many died. She was later taken to another camp, Malchow, which the Red Army finally liberated on May 1st, 1945. Of 776 Italian children under 14 that were sent to Auschwitz, she was one of only 35 survivors. After she returned home to Italy, she struggled to talk about what had happened to her. She said, "It was very difficult to find the right words to describe what we went through. It is almost impossible for those who had not experienced and suffered what we had to understand the differences between us and them coming back to a normal life." She continued, "I was a silly teenager. I was just 15 years old when I got back, and I found my old friends and what was left of my family. I was so different to them. I decided that silence was the best choice. Heavy silence. It was not easy, but it was better than talking about it and not being understood." Segre kept her silence until the 1990s, when she finally found the words to talk about what she went through. And in the years since, she has spoken at numerous conferences, participated in documentaries, and written memoirs about her experience at Auschwitz. Liliana Segre's silence helps me to understand Aaron's silence in the wake of horror and the trauma it leaves behind. But we do not have to be a Holocaust survivor to understand the need for silence in bereavement. When we visit a Shiva house to comfort those who are mourning the loss of a loved one, it is our custom, in fact, it is a commandment, to be with the mourner in silence until they are ready to speak. If they choose to say nothing at all, we are commanded to be with them in their silence. Parshat Shmini begins with life and continues with death, and it concludes with the commandments of kashrut, describing the Jewish way of eating. Is there anything else more associated with daily life than eating? This Torah portion presents in a microcosm the cycle of life. As we see this cycle reflected in the Jewish national holidays, we can connect ourselves to Torah. As Rabbi Josh Weinberg teaches, in Israel, the Shabbat between Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, and Yom HaAtzmaut is called Shabbat Tehumah, Shabbat of Revival. The word Tehumah originates from the word lakum, to rise or to stand up. The process of revival that we commemorate expresses our people's revival from the ashes of the Holocaust, through the heroism and grief of Israeli wars to the joy over the miracle of Jewish independence and sovereignty. On this Shabbat of revival, we see in Torah and in history, and most of all in human experience, how we can experience life and death and life again. In the midst of personal and communal tragedy and in silence, we can find strength and understanding. We can look back, and we can look ahead, and we can embrace life. And now we've come to the time when we have some important information to share with the community. And I invite board member extraordinaire and usher extraordinaire, Pam Friedman, who will share with us the announcements. And I'll keep talking while she makes her way up. It's a long way from where she's sitting. And I'll mention while she's on her way that this week is the birthday of our beloved Rabbi Richard Stafford. And so we remember him and we miss him, and he is with us tonight on Zoom. So happy birthday, Rabbi. Hope you have a beautiful, beautiful year ahead filled with blessings.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I would like to highlight a few announcements. So welcome back to everyone that's here in person, as well as those of you who are online with us. If you would like to RSVP for services next week, please contact the temple office by Wednesday evening. We are also looking for volunteer ushers for services in May. Please sign up if you are available. There will not be any religious school classes this Sunday due to spring break, but there are Hebrew classes coming up this week. A reminder that our behind the scenes speaker series is this coming Monday, April 12th at 7 p.m. The featured guest that night, Irene Carmon, is a co-author of the notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The event link was sent out in Thursday's weekly email. Shabbat morning services are tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock a.m.
At 9:45, sorry. We gotta fix that.
At 9:45. Let's rewind the tape there. Shabbat morning services will take place tomorrow morning at 9:45 here if you've made a reservation, as well as Zoom. After services concludes, can you please stay in your seat and the ushers will dismiss you in an orderly fashion? And thank you to the ushers, Mike Rush, Andrew Bosell, Denny Reynolds for tomorrow, and Jay Zemmel for tomorrow, our temple staff, security team, Ron Friedman, and of course, Rabbi Meir. Please check the temple website or Facebook page for more information. I'm wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And Pam is a bit modest. She couldn't read her own name in thanking the ushers. So I will thank Pam. Thanks for being an usher today. We will now continue on page 570, page 570, with the counting of the Omer. Starting on the second night of Passover, many Jews engage in the ritual of counting the Omer. The origin of this tradition comes from the text of Leviticus, where we are instructed to count off 7 complete weeks. Originally, this was an agricultural activity marking the days between the barley harvest around the time of Passover and the wheat harvest around the time of Shavuot. The term Omer means barley sheaf and refers to the barley offering that was brought to the temple on the second day of Passover. However, the Omer is also a period of spiritual growth. We look inward as we prepare symbolically to journey from redemption on the shores of the Red Sea, which we commemorate on Passover, to the moment of revelation at Sinai, which we celebrate at Shavuot. In Judaism, in Jewish life and Jewish practice, we are very skilled at making distinctions between Shabbat and the rest of the week, between holidays and between regular days, between the things we do eat and the things we don't eat, the things we do and the things we don't do. We're very, very good at making distinctions, and in many ways, to make something kadesh, holy, is to actually set it aside and make it separate. What I love about the period of counting the Omer is we are dwelling in the space in between Pesach and Shavuot. It's kind of a rare opportunity in the Jewish calendar to do that. And so I invite you to, if counting the Omer is something that's not so familiar to you, I invite you to continue doing that as we go through this period and see what it's like to spend some time in between. So we will continue on page 570, and I invite you to rise as you are able. We will start in the middle of the page. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu aspirat haomer. Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom shlosha asar yom shehem shavua echad v'shisha yamim laomer. Today is the 13th day, making 1 week and 6 days of the Omer. We will continue now on page 586. 586 will remain standing for a lane. At the bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer brechi, shelo asanu kegoe haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, u'mitachadim u'modim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue on 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You may be seated for just a moment. We have come to the time when we remember those who we have lost, those who have died in this season, in years past, or in the moment I will read the cottage list of the list of memories. And when I come to the end of the list, I'll invite you, I'll pause. And I will invite you to say the name to yourself. You can say it aloud. We'll all do it at the same time. Of anyone you are remembering this Shabbat, so that we may remember together as a community in this room and at home. This week continues the period of Shloshim, the death within the last 30 days of James Leib and Christina Bacher. We continue the period of Shana, the death within the past year of Tanya Leah Greenstrom, Gilbert Yosef Chaim Ben Yadul, Jonathan Safran, Ira Sokoloff, Manny Silverman, Ruby Jackson, Ron Subek, Harold Prigozhin, Sarah Lee Levin, Marilyn Salin, Marvin Krell, Jack Rosenberg, Leah Batmanasha Vabaila, Kathy Jarvis. This week is the yahrzeit, the anniversary of death of Samuel Braitman, Harry G. Borowski, Jacob Ruch, Loretta Burkowski, Leah Edelman, Rabbi Jacob M. Epstein, Sonia Finkelstein, Herman Freiberger, Jan Gassman, Rosemary Gentle, Rita Gold, Ida Goldberg, Lena Goltz, Ira Greenberg, Aaron Haslacher, June Saul Himmelstein, Sydney M. Hutner, Ida Hutner, Tilly Starr Isay, Leopold Isay, Elizabeth Ruth Johnson, Rebecca Kaplan, Sylvia Lederman, Rebecca Landy, Louis Latker, Ida Latz, Larry Levin, Valette Moyer, Jane L. Nyman, Gary Nemiroff, Helen O'Neill, Zelda Pinsky, Jean Rains, Barbara Rosen, Bess Rosenblatt, Otto D. Rothschild, Arthur Michael Rubik, Arthur Albert Sapiri, Anna Lee Sheffman, Benjamin Schultz, Sylvia L. Schaefer, Erna Schulten, Rosetta R. Siegel, Mark Smith, Samuel Stein, Earl Stewart, Morton Trauner, Marguerite Waltermath, Florence Weiss, Jane P. Woolner, Samuel Zweig, and to those names we add our own. for those names and the names we carry in our hearts, the names of those who perished in the Shoah, the names of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. I invite you to rise in solidarity as a community as we recite Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, which you will find on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach te ve'amlik malchute, v'chayachon v'zomachon v'chaye d'kol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'vizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehe shmei rabbam avarak le'alam ulmei almaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitomam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah v'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, damiran be'elma v'imru, amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'akol Israel, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, u'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'akol Israel, v'imru, amen. You may be seated. We've come to the end of our service together, and I would love to say to have a minute to say hello and Shabbat Shalom to you. So as you as the usher signals that it's your time to leave and then be able to maintain safe social distancing, which is why we do it that way. I will be outside and would love to meet you and chat for a moment. So we will conclude our service. Kiddush, setting aside the wine, the grape juice for our Shabbat enjoyment. We'll do it here, and then you can do it at home. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom, everyone at home. Thank you so much for being with us. We will see you next week. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.